Dr. Mackay. My name is Amy. Lovely to meet you. Lovely to meet
Yes.
you. So I wonder if you can just tell me what made you come to Edinburgh University?
Well, my father was a doctor and he graduated from Edinburgh, so that was, of course, why I wanted to come here when I was going to do medicine. Mm.
And can you tell me a little bit about what it was like when you came here?
Well, in 1939, the war had just broken out, so it very much overshadowed everything, my whole medical studies. We did anatomy, dissections in the dissecting room, and the women had a separate room.
Really?
And so we were separated out, and the men had their own dissecting room, and we dissected these cadavers, and for the first year of our studies in anatomy, and very exhausting. But I remember my father telling me that when he was here studying, he qualified in 1895, they did have some women students, and they all sat in the front row, and nobody spoke to them. So.
And so what was a typical day in third year? Would you go to the ward rounds? Would you
Yes,
go to
we
clinics?
went round, yes. And you were taught as you went round. Yeah. Yes, of course, all our teaching was done on patients, and so we just gathered round the patient and were taught on them, and they had to put up with whatever we say.
So I believe you've had a chance to look around the clinical skills area here.
Yes, well, I mean, I can see it's good, and to learn to, if you're going to be an anaesthetist, for instance, to learn to intubate on a body is much safer than on a patient, I must say.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to practice on a bit of plastic first, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't have felt confident marching up to a patient and doing it for the first time without having practiced. So it's definitely good. And even, you know, if you get into the vein, you can pull out and blood comes out, because there's like synthetic blood being pumped into the arms.
Yes, I was very impressed.
It's great. Yeah.
You know, penicillin became available during the war only for the army, but they had some here in the university that they would give to patients. You could prove that they had a staphylococcal aureus infection that was sensitive. And we had a little boy with an empyema, and it was staphylococcal. And so there was only the consultant, Dr. Thatcher, he was the paediatrician, and me, because we didn't have any other doctors. We didn't have registrars and people. And so we decided we would ask for some penicillin. So we had to go up to the bacteriology department of the university, and they gave us this penicillin, which was a brown fluid in a bottle.
Oh.
And we gave it by intramuscular injection into the little boy's buttocks. And he recovered completely.
Wow.
So that was a great excitement for us.
That must have been amazing.
Yes, so that was my introduction to penicillin.
As a student at the medical school, we've got a variety of extracurricular things that we have on, and the biggest thing at the moment is the Medics musical. Have you heard of this?
No?
So it's all done completely by the fourth years. Everything from the writing of the songs to the writing of the script to the costume design, and everything is all completely by us. And it starts in a few weeks, so the rehearsals are getting quite hectic. Did you have anything like this?
No. My entire medical training was done during the war. It dominated everything we did. Mm-hmm. I don't remember much of activities during term time, but in the holidays. In the summers, I worked as a land girl for 3 summers. On the other holidays, I used to go back down to Hull, where my parents lived and where my father was a doctor, and he was attached to the Royal Infirmary and to the sick children, so I used to go there, and I learned all kinds of useful techniques like stitching up people and And I liked working at the sick children's in the holidays, because if there was an air raid, we had to move all the children down from the wards to the basement of the hospital. And so if the sirens went, it was so much easier if I was in the hospital, because I was so busy moving the children that I didn't have time to think about the air raid. Whereas if I was at home, we had to go down to our own shelter in our house, which I didn't like, because then you had to sit and listen to it. Whereas if I was looking after the children, it was something to do. And so I preferred to have an air raid then. And the infirmary, which was just next to where we lived, it was destroyed. And our house was too, everything, we lost everything. But my parents were escaped, they were okay. They got out because it was just burnt to the ground. But the sick children, we didn't get a hit, so we were lucky.
After you left medical school, what happened next?
Well, I worked in sick kids then. I mean, I did 6 months at sick kid, as a house physician, and then 6 months as house surgeon with Miss Hertzfeld. And we were paid £50 for the year. So that was our money for a year. So then after that, I decided I better earn some money. So that's when I went into GP. And I was an assistant GP down in Chesterfield. And it was then that the NHS was about to begin, you see. Before that, I was assistant to this GP. We had to send bills out to the patients. And my boss was very good. He knew the patients, and so he never sent them if they were very poor. But one of his partners was very strict. You went to the house to see the patient, and I was helping out, and you had to ask for £0.50 before you could even see the patient.
Oh my goodness.
So there they had it sitting on the table when you arrived, before you could even see them. And it was awful, because you felt you couldn't just go and see patients to see how they were getting on, because they would expect you to be paid. So that was a great liberation, like when we had the NHS, you could go and see the patients just to see how they were, without them feeling that they'd have to pay.
That must have been a great feeling.
So it was great. I mean, that was the best thing about it.
I've just finished my obstetrics attachment.
So where did you do it?
So here, in the Royal. Yeah.
And did you enjoy Waterfree?
I loved it. Yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah, no, it was great actually just seeing all the. I loved the births. I was getting emotional at the births, and it was great. So.
Well, we went out. There was quite a lot of home deliveries, of course, in my day. So we used to go out with midwives to. I remember going to most terrible slums, you know, in the Cowgate, and going into these dark and dreary houses. But the babies all popped out. It was nice. I don't know if you ever watched this program on the TV called Call the Midwife. So that was a lovely program. It reminded me very much of how we used to do in Edinburgh. We mentioned about attachments, and I said we didn't do any attachments, but we did actually. You had to work for a month in some poorer area of the city. And so I opted to work in the Cowgate because I knew about it from my father, because he had worked there when he was a student, and so he had always supported the work that they did amongst all the. And so I used to go down there, and they had some students who lived there. It was a centre as well as a clinic for the poor people. And so I knew about the clinic, and so when this friend of mine who was working there asked me if I knew someone who'd do a locum for him while he went on leave, the hospital in Nazareth, which belonged to the same Edinburgh Medical Missionary Society, I said, well, I'm just moving jobs, I haven't got one at the moment, I'll come. And so that was when I went out in 1954 to do 6 months locum for him, and stayed there the rest of my life. So that was my connection with Nazareth. So did you do an elective?
So my elective is in August.
Oh.
So I'm going to Cambodia for eight weeks.
Oh, lovely.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
Yeah, it should be great. I'm going to a dermatology hospital. I wanted to do dermatology at the end of the day. So it should be great. It's a tiny hospital in the capital, and there are only 4 doctors,
Uh-huh.
so I think I'll get to know them all very well.
Well, it doesn't sound so tiny. We only had 4 when I went to Nazareth.
I'm also hoping to go for a trip on the Mekong River, and access the rural communities and provide them with healthcare, because there are a number of companies that provide healthcare on boats, similar to sort of mercy ships idea.
You're now fourth year, so you've got 1 more year to go. So
Almost there. So after I graduate, I'll do 2 years of foundation, and after that I'm hoping to go into dermatology. So that's the ultimate goal at the moment. So I'm thinking I'll go up to Aberdeen for foundation and then take it from there. So it's all very exciting, and I definitely feel that I'd really like to do work abroad, as you've done. And it's been, I think Edinburgh's really set me up quite well to do that.
we always said that Edinburgh's the best, so I'm glad it still is.
Yeah.